It's a battle of the heavyweights in the Elite Eight tonight. Angel Reese and LSU against Caitlin Clark in the Iowa Hawkeyes, a national championship rematch. And although these are two fantastic teams, two of the best in the country, I think LSU wins it tonight. I'll explain why on today's edition of Locked on LSU.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome into Locked on LSU. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on the YouTube page as well, Locked on LSU. Hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get notified as soon as new episodes of the podcast drop. However you listen, wherever you listen, just appreciate you for making us your first listen every single day. Hope everyone had a lovely Easter weekend, but it is game day today. A national championship rematch going down in the Elite Eight tonight in Albany. LSU in Iowa, two of the best teams in the country. And this was the rematch that I know I was hoping for. And I think this was the rematch that you were hoping for. And I know surely basketball fans across the country have been hoping for, because this is one of the best rivalries that we have seen naturally come to fruition in women's college basketball. Let's go back to last year. We know all of the controversy that followed that game with the Angel Reese, "You can't see me," and Angel Reese pointing to her ring finger. All the subsequent, court of public opinion ripping apart Angel Reese. It was, remember the invitation to the White House that reportedly Jill Biden invited Iowa to the White House as well, and LSU fans were up in arms of the loser never gets invited to the White House. And I say loser, I say that gently. I don't mean that in a mean way, but hey, it is what it is. And that has been a massive storyline, not just between the LSU and Iowa programs, but in women's college basketball as a whole. That really felt like the first time this sport was making national headlines, that it was being discussed and debated on the biggest networks and biggest television shows among some of the biggest voices, not just in sports media, but in media as a whole. And tonight they meet again with a trip to the Final Four on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't script things better than this. There's probably, movie directors across the country thinking, damn, yeah, I couldn't even write something that good. So here we are, LSU and Iowa facing off in the Elite Eight. It's Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark. And we all know that it's much more than that. It's much more than just Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but that is going to be what the discussion is. We know it's more than that as LSU fans, because we know that there's more to this LSU team than just Angel Reese. And I think that plays in LSU's favor. And I think that that is one of the reasons why LSU beats Iowa tonight to advance to the Final Four. Iowa is a 1.5 point favorite as of Monday afternoon. It could have changed. The sports books could have shifted. But last that I have checked, as of Monday afternoon, Iowa is a 1.5 point favorite. I think the sports books are wrong on this one. I think LSU beats Iowa tonight first and foremost because LSU has the size advantage. That Iowa just simply doesn't have the height, the length, and the size that this LSU team has. Whether it's between Angel Reese or Anissa Moro or Alyssa Del Rosario, LSU's got height. And I know that Haley Van Lith and Flau'jae Johnson aren't the tallest ones out there, but LSU absolutely has the size advantage in this one, and therefore they've got the advantage in the paint. They've got the Angel Reese advantage. Angel Reese averaging a double-double every single night. Iowa's leading rebounder is Caitlin Clark. She's averaging about 7 rebounds a game. Angel Reese is averaging 13. Anissa Moro is averaging 10. Caitlin Clark can't do it all. It seems like she can. Honestly, if anybody can, she can. But LSU has the size and the defensive advantage here. The second reason why I think that LSU is going to win this game tonight is because LSU has the depth, frankly, that Iowa does not have. And it's not very frequently that we can talk about an LSU matchup in which LSU has the depth advantage. That was, I think, the number one reason why, or one of the main reasons why, LSU just simply cannot beat South Carolina. And it's because South Carolina's first five off the bench could be a starting five on any other Power Five program in the country and probably be a top 20, top 25 team. LSU doesn't have that. Not very many teams across college basketball have the gift of having the kind of depth that South Carolina has, LSU included. But LSU does have that scoring depth advantage here. LSU has 6 players averaging double-digit points or more a game. Angel Reese averaging just shy of 19. Anissa Morrow just shy of 17. Flau'jae just shy of 15. And let me say, Flau'jae Johnson is playing her best basketball of the season at the perfect time. Michaela Williams back and healthy, averaging 14 and a half points a game. Samaya Smith, Haley Van Lith just shy of 12. That's 6 players that you can be go-to point scorers, go-to offensive makers. Iowa, on the other hand, they only have 3 players that are averaging double-digit points. And Caitlin Clark is overwhelmingly the leading scorer, averaging just shy of 32 points a game. Hannah Stelke, 14. Kate Martin, just shy of 13. Now, when I say LSU has the depth of scoring advantage, I'm not saying that they have the scoring advantage. Because Caitlin Clark in Iowa, absolutely, they have the advantage behind the arc. Absolutely, Caitlin Clark is going to be a better three-point shooter than anyone up and down LSU's roster. That's just the reality of the situation. Caitlin Clark might be the best three-point shooter in college basketball, period. Men's, women's, doesn't matter. Like, Caitlin Clark is just, she's lights out from 3. You don't have that same kind of three-point threat on LSU's bench, on LSU's side. I don't think anyone in America has the three-point advantage against this Iowa team. So although Iowa does have the individual scorer advantage, although Iowa does have a much larger threat, a much greater threat from 3 and Caitlin Clark, LSU has more options. If you need to get the ball in the hands of someone not named Angel Reese, they can get it done. Anissa Morrow can get it done. Flau'jae Johnson can get it done, so on and so forth. If Iowa is forced to get the ball in the hands of anyone not named Caitlin Clark, I don't see a path to victory. That it is Caitlin Clark's team. And that is no disrespect to Hannah Stelke and Kate Martin and Gabby Marshall and the rest of that team. Who leads Iowa in points? Caitlin Clark. Who leads Iowa in rebounds? Caitlin Clark. Who leads Iowa in assists? Caitlin Clark. Who leads Iowa in steals? Caitlin Clark. It's the Caitlin Clark show. And stopping Caitlin Clark is much easier said than done. But with LSU, you've got options. You've got depth. Iowa's got probably the most threatening scorer in all of women's college basketball. But they got 1. I'll take 6 over 3. But I do want to continue the conversation coming up next because there are a few keys for LSU in this game, what they can't do and what they absolutely positively need to do. And we'll get into that coming up next after just a few words from our sponsors. All right, I want to tell you about Game Time. Game Time, truthfully, that's my go-to place whenever I need to buy tickets for anything, whether it's a sporting event or a concert or a comedy show or a play or a musical. I go to Game Time first. It is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier now that we finally are in the Major League Baseball season. Prices on Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They've got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. One thing that I love about Game Time is, when you look at maybe some other third-party ticketing sites, you go to check out and the taxes and the fees, they're almost like the same price, if not close to double the price of the actual ticket. But that's not with Game Time. Game Time is forthright, and what you see is what you get when you go to buy tickets with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, welcome back into Locked On LSU. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we are part of the Locked On Network, your team every single day. And speaking of the Locked On Network, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. I have a good feeling there's going to be a lot of screaming going on tomorrow. If I know this matchup, if I know these teams well enough, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a debate tomorrow. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. So I'm taking LSU to win tonight, and I'm taking LSU to win tonight for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it's the size advantage that LSU they've got their big women. They've got an Angel Reese. They've got an Anissa Morrow. Iowa doesn't have that. Iowa doesn't have that tall physical presence in the paint. The second reason why is because LSU has, yes, it's going to be advertised as the Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese show. But I think a more fair evaluation of this matchup is Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow and Flau'jae Johnson, so on and so forth. Because this LSU team, it's not just Angel Reese. She is off the stat sheet, absolutely the most impressive. She's the leader on this team. Absolutely, Angel Reese is the face of this team. But I watched Flau'jae really throughout the entirety of this tournament. I've seen what Anissa Morrow can do and has done. I mean, this is what LSU, the depth of LSU gives them that advantage. But a few keys. One thing that LSU absolutely cannot do is get Angel Reese into foul trouble. We've seen how this team responds or has responded in the past when Angel Reese does get into foul trouble. The game that comes to mind is LSU South Carolina in Baton Rouge earlier this season, in the regular season. That game took a total and complete turn once Angel Reese fouled out of that game. Like it looked like a different team. Now I know that this team has grown as a whole. Individuals have grown as a whole since what was that, February, early February, late January, whenever that was, against South Carolina. But still, like I just said, Angel Reese is a leader on this team. And leadership aside, Angel Reese gets it done for this team. And this looks like a different team when Angel Reese doesn't have the ability to be productive for you. So Angel Reese needs to stay out of foul trouble because that is one of the advantages that you have against this Iowa team is the size that Angel Reese brings this LSU team. The second thing I think that seems so obvious, but I have to say it. I don't know how you stop Caitlin Clark. I don't think anyone really, truly can stop Caitlin Clark altogether. I mean, even whenever she's pressured, even when it's specifically when it's gotta have it, must get it kind of situations at the end of the game. When there have been so many Iowa games that I have watched that I'm like, man, Iowa just can't get it done tonight. And then all of a sudden, it's a handful of Caitlin Clark clutch threes, and Iowa finds themselves right back in the game. That she shows up in clutch moments. She can make a shot seemingly from anywhere. She can pull it from half court. So I don't know if you can stop her. But I think what LSU's game plan has to be tonight is just try to disrupt her. Because this Iowa team has shown that it is Caitlin Clark and everybody else. that if you sell out to stop Caitlin Clark, you can win this basketball game because I don't know who is there to pick up the slack. But again, that's the challenge. I can say all day long, don't let Caitlin Clark beat you. I think that every single coach that has played Caitlin Clark this season, tournament included, has said, we're not going to let Caitlin Clark beat us. And you know what? She still does because she's that good. But whatever LSU has to do to disrupt Caitlin Clark, if that's getting in her head, if that's trying to get her off of her game, if that's using your size and your physicality to your advantage, to just find some way to knock Caitlin Clark off her game. Because you're not going to stop her. Someone who can shoot as well as Caitlin Clark can, you're not going to stop her completely. She's still going to get hers. But she can have hers and score 40 points a night, or she can have hers and score 20 points a night. And if LSU can hold Caitlin Clark to 20, 25 points, honestly, I'll consider that a win. If you can hold Caitlin Clark to 20 or 25 points, I have a really good feeling that you can win this basketball game. So, frankly, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if I can draw it up on a whiteboard with the X's and O's and say, okay, this is exactly how we're going to get in Caitlin Clark's face, and we're going to try and, just at least throw her shooting off just the teeniest, tiniest little bit. I don't know how you do that, but I don't make millions of dollars. Kim Mulkey does. So that's what they're going to have to figure out. How do you knock Caitlin Clark off of her game? Because the supplementary cast doesn't provide, at least on the score sheet. I'm not going to act like I've watched every Iowa game this season. The supplementary cast, the supporting cast behind Caitlin Clark, I don't think can win very many games for Iowa, nor do I think it's enough to beat this LSU team with all of the stakes involved, with a trip to the Final Four involved. But I think one thing that you absolutely positively cannot count out is how eager and hungry this Iowa team is. They remember that. They remember that national championship game. They remember how embarrassed they probably felt when Angel Reese was pointing to her ring finger. I don't discredit and I don't, belittle Angel Reese for what she did like so many people want to do. But look, if I'm on that Iowa team, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to use that as fuel and motivation. And that's what I want to get into coming up next is the off the court aspect of all of this. The court of public opinion aspect of all of this, the mental game that I think is going to be played and really honestly has been played every single day since the national championship this past season. And we'll get into that coming up next. All right, I want to tell you about Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV, to me, as a cord cutter, is the best option to stay connected to any live events. And it's also the destination for sports. You've got live games, you've got highlights, you've got in depth analysis. Plus, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV sticks. You can just plug that directly into your existing TV, which will provide you access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. So whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Plus, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, and it's all for free. That's the best part. That also includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. So Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis and highlights and so much more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB. MLB season is back. Plus, so much more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos, anything that you're interested in, sports or non sports. Check it out at Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. All right, rolling along here, Locked On LSU. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. So this LSU and Iowa matchup. Look, we know that athletes say all the time, block out the noise, I don't listen to the noise. They do. Everyone has phones. They have TVs. They hear what's being talked about on podcasts and radios and newspaper specifically. They know. They hear the noise. And I think it absolutely fuels this Iowa team. And I think it probably should fuel this Iowa team, right? That Caitlin Clark has achieved everything that you could possibly dream of achieving in this sport. She's broken records. She's won MVP trophies. She's won conference championships. She's made millions of dollars. She's on commercials. She's inspired people. I think that there's probably several young women and young girls across the country that want to be Caitlin Clark, that wear Caitlin Clark jerseys. I think that's part of the reason why you do this, right? That she's achieved so much. But what she hasn't achieved is a national championship. Last year, LSU was the only thing standing in her way. This year, LSU is now what stands in her way. You don't think that doesn't energize her, fuel her, fire her? You don't think that fires up the entire locker room? An entire locker room that knows that that team lives and breathes through Caitlin Clark? Absolutely, they're going to be fired up for this game. But I do have to give Kim Mulkey credit. I have to give that locker room credit. When it comes to getting fired up for anything, a game, matchup, whatever it might be, I'd be hard pressed to find another coach or other players that can motivate their team as well as Kim Mulkey and this team can motivate themselves. Because I think that everything being said about this LSU women's basketball team, they hear it. And instead of being embarrassed by it, instead of letting it consume them, they let it fuel them. You don't think that they've seen that Washington Post article that Kim Mulkey talked about in her press conference? You don't think they read the dirty debutante title in the LA Times, which, first and foremost, how dare you? How disgusting can you be? What kind of editor allows that to be printed? That's disgusting. Dirty debutantes, get out of here. But they hear that. They know what's being talked about. They know how people view them. They know they're the villains, and I think they like it. They know that it's, if you're going to look at it from the good versus evil perspective that the LA Times wants to portray them as, they know they're the evil. But instead of trying to fit into whatever narrative might be written about them, they're not worried about it. They're fueled by it. I think that's really a massive part, a massive aspect of this, of the postseason, of this tournament season, that honestly lends in LSU's favor. Because I think that they do get fueled by these things. I think they do get fired up by these things. I think they honestly love all the talk and love all the narratives and love all the hate because they want to prove the haters wrong. I mean, I feel like I know the personalities of this team and these individual players as well as a person could without actually being there in the locker room and having conversations with them on a day-to-day basis. But that, to me, those doesn't seem like a group that gets turned away by bad publicity or negative talk because they believe in themselves. They know as a team what they're capable of. I think they have the approach of, if you're with us, then great. And if you're against us, then sorry. And I love that. I love that about this team because you're not going to change the narrative. You can't please everyone. Even Caitlin Clark has her fair share of haters out there because people are sick and tired of the coverage and the overexposure, as they're calling it, so on and so forth. You can't please everybody. But what you can do is adjust the way that you respond to it. So instead of this LSU team trying to please everybody and to play this little game of tea party that it seems like the national media wants them to play, it's F it. We're going to go out and we're going to play our brand of football, and we're going to be damn proud of it. Now, as far as expectations for this team, if LSU falls tonight against Iowa and Caitlin Clark, I think you can look at it and say, these are the two of the best teams in the country. Hands down, two of the best teams in the country. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. Of course, how it plays out will absolutely dictate that one way or another, how we feel about this game, whether it's the officiating or the game plan or the shot selection, whatever it might be. Of course, we're going to feel one way about it tomorrow if they lose, and we'll feel one way about it tomorrow if they win. I think overall you can say after losing 3 of their starting 5 last year, you feel really encouraged about what this team has accomplished. That I think they know that it's not done yet, that they're not done yet, that their season's not finished yet. And that's going to be what fuels them tonight. I'm taking LSU to win. It's the size advantage, it's the depth scoring advantage, and frankly, I think it's the motivation advantage as well. Although both sides have all of the motivation in the world, whether it's to prove people wrong or to prove themselves right. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. We'll have a full breakdown of the game tonight on tomorrow's edition of Locked on LSU.